Hey everybody, welcome back. Joe Marion here, ASCDI. This is our final formal session of disposition. Following this, we're going to go to our networking session. But first, this session I think is probably one of the most important we're going to talk about. We've called it Redeploy 2021 because that's exactly what our industry should be doing, needs to be doing. Some of it's prompted by the pandemic. Some of it prompted by new environmental laws and new data privacy laws. And we have probably, three of the best on with us today. We have a Guardian who's going to talk a little bit about, they look at it from the standpoint of the data destruction standpoint. We have SoftThinks, who has a really interesting tool that you all should be taking a look at. And they have Data Vista, who's really like one of our own. They're living and breathing this stuff every day. So let me start over with Guardian, and Glenn, take it away, please. Introduce yourself and take it from there.
Thank you, Joe. Hello, everyone. My name is Glenn Laga. I'm president and founder of Guardian Data Destruction, and we are a support mechanism to the channel. We provide on-site e-data destructions, from shredding of hard drives to the shredding of solid-state drives down to 2mm size, as well as site decommissioning and logistics. So all our work is done in the channel. All our customers are in the channel, so it's either the VAR or ITAD industry. We don't work with end clients, and we're here to support you guys. Thank you.
Great. Okay, let's go. We'll do some intros. We'll keep going real quick, and then Glenn, I'm going to circle back to you in a minute. Dave, intro yourself, please.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So I'm Dave Make. I'm with SoftThinks. I'm the director of ITAD sales for the Americas. Essentially, our software is an all-in-one product to help you with the processing of devices, PCs, laptops, and any type of mobile device. It's stop one session, if you will, of audit, diagnostics, wiping, and re-imaging. You can use those all in one as a complete process, but if you're not doing all those things, you can mix and match them as you need them. So it really does eliminate a lot of the time, the tech touch time, the errors, so on and so forth, which I think we'll get into later.
Great. And Bill, take it away.
Sure. I'm Bill Nunes. I'm the CTO at Data Vista. Data Vista is an IT lifecycle services company. Basically, we can handle everything in a data center from the cradle to the grave: parts, professional services, maintenance, asset management, data destruction, and ITAD.
Great. Hey, Glenn, I want to ask you how the pandemic has affected your business, but before I do that, kind of describe to us, how your process works. I know the answer, so I mean, do I mail it in? Does a truck come? What does Guardian do?
Sure. So we'll receive a work order from a particular VAR ITAD company to go on site and do an e-data destruction. So as it'll come in either via our portal or an email. We have standardized pricing nationally, so that everybody is in a fair playing field. And what'll happen is that if it's on-site shredding or on-site erasure, a team is deployed. If it's shredding, a truck is deployed. We have 23 trucks throughout the United States that just provide on-site shredding at locations. And the team will come on-site, do serial number capturing of the devices that we're shredding, provide shredding on site, and then you'll have a certificate of data destruction as well as a certificate of recycling for the hard drives. If it's an erasure, we run different erasure formats. So we run Blanco, we run EPS, and various other ones. And we'll go on site the same way. We'll go to a data center and erase thousands of drives at a time.
Well, thousands is a nice number, but what if, Bill, I think we're getting some feedback from you. So if maybe you want to mute yourself, but you're okay now. Glenn, thousands is a nice number, but what happens if I have a small quantity? What do you guys do? What do I do there?
Sure. I mean, there's a number of options that you have available to us. If the small quantity, we can come on site and do a degauss, which is less expensive than doing an erasure or a shred job. Also, we can do mutilation, which is another form of destruction, but it does not shredding. And then we have a third process, which we have these secure lock boxes that we can ship to you. You can then put the hard drives in a lockbox, and we'll either courier them back to us and provide secure transportation for that.
Is that something, the lockbox, something new that you guys invented as a result of the pandemic?
It's had, the volume has increased with the lock boxes only because as people are leaving companies or the terminations, they want the device to be securely transported back for data destruction. So we have seen quite a bit of increase in that particular product.
Last thing, and I'll jump on to the other guys. But what's the importance of using a provider such as yourself that's Nade certified, or is there any? Does it matter who I pick? What's the difference between one and the other?
Absolutely. The Nade certification is the highest standard that you can have in the data destruction industry. In fact, the auditor just left us about an hour ago. We had a surprise audit come in, and they went through all our process procedures, making sure we have a secure facility, background checks on all our employees. So Nade, periodically, you'll send an unannounced audited, and you have to be able to, meet the audited standards in order to continue your Nade certification. So it adds a high level of practice to your service provider.
Got it. I do have one last question. So I'm an ITAD. I don't have the kind of services you provide. I call you up in, does the customer gonna know they're doing business with data, Guardian data, or how do I look more important by using your services?
Well, first off, we'll work with, and however our customer, which would be the VAR, the ITAD, or the MSP, wants us to work for them, whether we're wearing their shirts, or if not, we can represent Guardian when on site. We have tremendous amount of insurances, so that'll alleviate some of the burden from them. All our guys are all background checked and Nade certified, so it makes it very easy for them. And this is a revenue stream for them. So there's no reason to go out and buy a $250,000 shred truck when we have them all over the United States, and it's wholesale pricing. So there's a level of margin that they add when they bill their customers, and we're only going to be billing the VAR and the ITAD industry.
Got it. Glenn, thanks. Dave, I'm going to jump over to you real quickly. I mean, in the old days, you sold 1 or 2 computers a month, then you could make a nice living. Now, it ain't that way no more. You got to sell lots of product. Sure. So tell us, I mean, how do I deal with the volume? What can you do to help me?
Well, the volume for us is what people come to us to solve. Really, it's getting the product from the back door out, essentially the front door, as fast as possible to turn that product into revenue instead of it sitting on shelves and waiting for it to be processed. So the faster they can do that, obviously, the better for them. So that's one of the problems that we will solve is speed. The ability to attach and connect many computers or devices and get those processed as quickly as possible and get those out the front door for revenue.
So when somebody connects, using your words, connects the computer, what does it do?
Mm-hmm. Well, essentially, we're a software for service, and we connect, or it resides on premise in a server that they provide that connects, depending on the size of the company, there could be a much larger network involved in NAS, so on and so forth. But that's connecting to the technician's workspace, really just a keyboard, a mouse, a monitor, and a hub, which he would connect those computers to the hub and run our software through that process. Mm-hmm. So they'll roll up, racks of PCs or laptops and connect them, and one at a time. It's a Pixie boot process to start, and then we've customized that software to work how they want it to work, meaning the different modules I mentioned earlier, which one they would choose or how they would do that. because their customers request things differently across the board. It's not a static request from each customer, so they need to be able to jump between different options for them.
I know that your software, does things like will help, refresh, if you will, the operating system. And what about diagnostics of the hardware itself? Can it tell me, if my disk is about to crash and I should call Glenn in to crush it?
Right, exactly. Yeah, good one. So yeah, our diagnostics is really in depth. So we provide a industry standard diagnostics, which is a health check. It's like going to the doctor and checking your pulse and your how good your heart is, your lungs, so on and so forth. So it's just the same it would do on a computer, providing and kicking back information to the user and gathering that information. Then we have what we call enhanced diagnostics. These are more of a deeper dive type of diagnostics where you're now bringing in the technician to do a little more touch time on the device. This might be a pixel test, USB test, or a video test, which like we're using now. Again, giving feedback as whether or not the device is healthy or not to continue to a wipe. If it's not, it'll kick back the information of what device or what piece of the equipment is not operating properly. It gives the opportunity to the company, and based on their process, to remove and repair that device. So put in a new RAM, put a new CPU in there, and then reprocess again.
Okay. So if I'm trying to decide, do I want to, pay soft things for your services, or I got this guy sitting on a bench and he's doing this manually, when do I make that move? How do I say, it's time to automate? Because that's really what you're doing for me. You're automating.
Yeah, we heard this yesterday. Never a bad time to start automating, big or small. So I kind of laughed when I heard that yesterday. It is really a key that sometimes the smaller it is, the better it is, because you can transition and grow easier with change. Not say we can't do it with a large company. Just it obviously takes a little more effort and obviously a lot more concentration and focus from our tech department to get them up and running, but it doesn't really matter the size.
And is your and Bill, I'm going to jump over you next, but Dave, is your value prop? I mean, do you charge? Is it a license fee? Is it a one-time charge? I don't want to ask you what's going to cost me, but can I pay you over time, or do I got to pay you all up front, or what's the expenses? I guess is where I'm fishing.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is one of the great things that we offer, because every time I talk to a new potential customer, and this question comes up, and I explain to them that there's no support costs, there's no maintenance fees every year, there's no charge for new versions. All you're paying for is how you use our licensing product, or how the licenses are used. They love that, number one. That's their only investment with us. We support that customer all the way through as long as they're one of our customers. So that means, the setup, the potential integration with an ERP company, and it's just surely license-based. And even the best part of it, which they really love, is there's no upfront cost on that either. We only bill at the end of a month. So we look at how they used our product. They receive an invoice and log files of everything they use. So we don't ask them, hey, how much are you going to use this month, and how much for this year? And you have to buy 60,000 licenses up front, and you got to manage them. We don't do that. They have unlimited access every month to use those licenses, and we just bill at the end.
Got it. Cool. Hey, Bill, I am going to switch over to you. Now, the first two guys, Glenn and Dave, they're service providers. They provide services, if you will, to our industry. Bill's a little more like a lot of the folks who are on this webinar today. Bill's one of us. He's in the trenches every day. So I'm going to start, Bill, I guess, with the, from the bad and go to the good. The bad being the pandemic. What did that do to your business? How did it change your business, Data Vista's business?
Yeah, as you might expect, right? The COVID slowdown really has affected everybody from I would consider it a latency and pipeline perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep. And what do you see now? What do you see now? Are you seeing light at the end of the tunnel? I guess that's really.
Yeah. It's a fair question. So really, what if you think about what created that latency, right? It's all these COVID restrictions, can't get the bodies on site. Whether that be our people or whether it be our actual end user clients, people that need to decommission or get the equipment moving. And what that's basically done is created a backlog. The work's all still there, but it's backlogged. And what we're starting to see now is we saw the pipeline run out, right? Run dry, if you will, not all the way, but you get the idea. And then now what we're starting to see is it picking back up again. And when we talk to our clients, they're telling us, I not only have the entire pipeline I had before, but now because of some of the changes that have occurred, I have additional pipeline. And oh, by the way, now I see 2022 as even more busy.
Yeah, that's a good boat. And I'm going to jump over to Glenn just for 1 second. Glenn, in one of our prep calls, you kind of mentioned something similar about seeing an influx of orders that were sitting on people's desks up until now.
Yeah, absolutely. When the pandemic first hit, our volume decreased almost to nothing because a lot of our services, in fact, all our services are performed on site at the customer location. So, and if there's nobody in the office, there's nothing to pick up, nothing to do. So what we're seeing is a push more towards data center services, where the data centers are now being hosted remotely instead of in the corporate environment. So that's an increase. And going forward, the people we're working with are seeing, work that's 6 to 8 months out, and the volumes are highly increasing over the last month.
No, that's good boating. Bill, okay, so the pandemic, that was the bad news. What do you see anything positive on on the front? What do you see in the future, 2021, 2022? That's going to affect our industry, of course.
Yeah. So that latency we talked about, really, if you will, it's stacking up, right? And we assume it's going to catch up. I alluded to that earlier, and we see that's clearly a positive. We do see some additional addressable market due to a combination of things. Some of it is many of the large companies out there actually are having layoffs right now. So they have a surplus of inventory, things they need to get cleaned up, taken out of the data centers or whatever the case may be. That becomes our gain, right? That's part of one of our businesses in this overall mix of things, right? Also the migration to the cloud, right? We're seeing, a lot of hybrid cloud, but we're seeing what goes to the cloud, the remnants are left over for both our ITAD, which of course requires our data destruction. The work from home it's an interesting demographic in which we're seeing, a lot of repurposing of equipment for the work at home or to assist their teams that are working at home with either upgrades or replacements. And then, as we've seen in the industry now since at least 2017, the continuing adding of restrictions, which in our case assists our business. Right now, clients have additional restrictions. I can think of 5 or 6 right off the top of my head. But each year we add another restriction out there that forces clients. And what we're seeing a trend now, as an example, is they no longer want hard drive retention, like on service calls, right? When we do maintenance, they do not want any parts of that. They want to make sure that you take that hard drive away and that you supply them with the clear chain of custody all the way to destruction for those hard drives. So those are all positive things that I think will, continue to grow in rest of 21 as we build out and then into 22.
Bill, this might not be a fair question. We're going to take a shot at it anyway. Tell us about Data Vista's journey. I mean, you guys have been around for a long time, and you were typical buy, sell, used guys, I guess. Yeah. When did you drink the Kool-Aid and find the ITAD religion, if you will? Yeah,
it's funny. Good point, right? We've been around forever, and I jokingly say in one form or another. And a lot of it is we did a lot of this stuff, but didn't call it anything special. Since I've been at Data Vista, my experience, I've kind of really segregated it down into these 6 businesses because I really wanted to call attention at Data Vista to all of the things that we are capable of doing. Mm-hmm. Right. And it evolved to your point. The ITAD feed, it's that circle of business. The ITAD feeds the parts business. The
Yeah.
parts business feeds the maintenance business. The maintenance business feeds the professional services, the IMAC-Ds, right? The installs, moves, adds, changes, deinstalls, right? There's always professional services in there. And of course, every time you do the ITAD, we have the data destruction involved, right? With all the regulations we talked about. So it's just really evolved over the years. Clearly, we do from the smallest of clients up through some of the largest of clients. So our infrastructure's there. We've gotten into both white labeling for other companies or vice versa. There are times where we might not have the exact perfect fit in-house. So we'll use someone like Glenn as an example, and we'll act as an integrator versus actually the one doing the business, in which Glenn gets the white label for us, as an example.
Yep. Yeah, and I'd say that's partnerships. I mean, that's kind of what ASCDI is all about. I mean, that, folks, like, well, I guess every one of you guys on the phone are ASCDI members. You can trust them. Our code of ethics is going to make sure of that. So, if I was going to look for partners, I'd be looking right here, to say the truth.
Well, and we jokingly call that coopetition, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in the industry uses that term, coopetition, right?
Yep.
All day long.
Yep. So okay, I'm going to kind of open up to you guys now. Just kind of fill in. We have about 9 more minutes, and then we're going to kick off our social networking session. But what am I missing, Dave? Let me just start with you real quickly. Just I mean, you're all about automation, and that was if I heard a theme yesterday and today, it's automate so you can deal with the volumes. So you're maybe a perfect place to start. But this is not a question, just I guess an intro. But what am I missing?
I guess I want to add maybe on top of what Glenn and Bill were just talking about, with the pandemic hitting, with all the social distancing, the limitations, the rules, how offices had to work today. I guess automation became more important because there was less people in the office, but still needing to process equipment. So for us, last year was actually a very good year bringing new clients on and building a stronger database of partners. And just right out of the gate, this first quarter was very good. And I, again, just, going back to yesterday, what the guys were talking about, and I agree that this is a ramp up. I think Q2, 3, 4 this year, we're just going to see this thing start sliding on a very steep upgrade. So very positive thing for this industry starting now, as far as I'm concerned.
Glenn, what's your crystal ball look like?
Well, I really see a lot of data center work coming in, and I think that the desktop environment is going to slowly decrease in the office environment. You're going to have a lot more work from home, so home offices are going to be a bigger moving forward. And if you don't mind me just coming off subject right now, Joe, I'd like to recognize Karen. She did a dynamite job putting this whole thing together. Yes, I really must applaud her. Without her,
Glenn, thank you for that, because I meant to do it, I forgot, and you're absolutely right. Karen, for all you folks who are listening today, is kind of hiding behind the scenes, but Karen kind of prepped us all. She walked us through it multiple times, and I know she was up something like 4:30 this morning, kind of getting ready for today. So without Karen McGoy, we couldn't make this possible. Karen, I know you're listening. Thank you so much for all your time and effort in putting this together.
Yeah, very valuable addition to your team, Joe.
Yeah. And by the way, also we have Gail Goldstein, who's kind of handled all the administrative parts. So between the two of them, they make me look good, but it's really all them. So guys, thank you. Thank you for that. Bill, any kind of closing words?
Well, both Dave and Glenn kind of talked about the positives. So, and I won't view this as a negative, but I'll throw it out there. Dave touched on automation. So there's a couple things real quick that we're also seeing as trends, and I would post them as semi-negative trends, right? One is we're seeing higher shipping costs because of the pandemic. We're seeing, delays. We're seeing driver shortages as an example. And you say, well, why driver shortages? Honestly, there's more career options right now. With the economy, the way it was ramped up and the way it looks like it's going to ramp back up, they have more choices. There's not as many folks going into driving, as well as regulatory changes as an example. But when David mentioned automation, it really clicked for me, which is prior to COVID, we started to see, and I kind of call it the Amazon effect on the entry-level labor force, the folks that are the day-to-day nuts and bolts of our businesses. But since the pandemic, the government assistance programs have really raised the bar for what it takes to bring those bodies in-house to get them to actually do the labor. So I do think as the year goes on and into 22, one of the trends we will probably see is one of more of the no-touch automation, right? Or we almost back to the old-fashioned reverse assembly line in some ways.
Yeah, interesting. Guys, thank you. Any last words? Anything one last time?
Just thanks for the time, Joe.
Great.
Thank you.
Good, guys. Thank you too. Okay, for you folks listening, in 5 minutes, 12:45, we're going to start our networking session, speed networking we call it. Feel free to go pour yourselves a coffee or a beer or anything in between. I'm going to go do the same, grab a glass of wine, and I'll be back here in 4 minutes now, and we'll kick off our speed networking. The way to do it, if you look on your screens, you'll see this little button on the left-hand side that says networking. Click on that, sign yourself up, and it'll set up 3-minute cycles, if you will, with all the other attendees at disposition. And you'll get a chance to kind of give your elevator speech to everybody. It's really a great way to meet a lot of people in a short period of time. I want to thank you all, our sponsors and our speakers, and most of all, you for signing up today, for coming to disposition. We couldn't do it without you. I mean, real ASCDI, I say, is the greatest association on the planet, in the universe, but it's because of you that we're that way. So I want to thank you very much for your support, and I'll see you all in about now 4 minutes at the social networking. See you then. Guys, thank you. Have a good rest of the day.